2 years after the failed invasion, Captain Hayes commanded the exploration vessel UES Pioneer as it entered the Zephyrian home system for the first time in human history. His ship was not leading an invasion fleet or carrying weapons designed to conquer alien worlds. Instead, the Pioneer carried diplomats and scientists whose mission was far more ambitious than simple military victory. The Zephyrian homeworld was a crystalline planet that orbited twin stars in patterns that created constantly shifting light displays across its surface. Hayes watched through the ship's main viewer as his vessel approached a civilization that had ruled 17 star systems until humans taught them what real warfare looked like. The massive cities below were built from the same energy-channeling crystals that formed Zephyrian ship hulls. Admiral Kethvar met Hayes at the primary spaceport in a ceremony that would have been impossible before human forces proved their overwhelming superiority. The alien commander who had once planned to conquer Earth now served as an ambassador trying to negotiate the survival of his people. The meeting represented a complete reversal of the power relationship that had existed when Zephyrian ships first appeared in Earth's sky. Hayes carried an offer that surprised every alien leader who heard it. Instead of demanding tribute or territory, as payment for their failed invasion, humanity proposed something that no conquering species in galactic history had ever suggested. Earth wanted to form a partnership with its former enemies to explore technologies and regions of space that no single civilization could investigate alone. The galaxy had needed a new map because human exploration fleets had discovered that the known civilized regions were actually just a small cluster of systems surrounded by vast, unexplored territories. These unknown areas contained wonders and dangers that required unprecedented cooperation between species to navigate safely. Humanity offered to lead this exploration, but only if other civilizations chose to participate as equals rather than subjects. Dr. Grant established the first interspecies research facility at a location that had been chosen specifically for its symbolic importance. New Geneva Station was built at the exact point in space where the first human-alien battle had taken place. The facility represented everything that cooperation could achieve when species combined their knowledge instead of fighting over territory. Human and alien scientists worked together in laboratories that would have been impossible to imagine when the war began. Grant's teams studied Zephyrian energy manipulation techniques, while alien researchers learned human approaches to engineering problems that had limited their advancement for centuries. The combination of different scientific traditions produced breakthroughs that neither species could have achieved working alone. The research that came out of New Geneva changed fundamental understanding of how the universe operated. Human creativity combined with alien knowledge created new fields of science that opened pathways to distant galaxies and energy sources that made stellar manipulation look primitive by comparison. The war that had started as a simple invasion had become the foundation for technological advancement beyond anything either species had dreamed possible. Engineer Clark found himself designing ships for the species that had once been humanity's enemies. The new vessels incorporated design philosophies from 4 different civilizations and used hybrid technologies that no single culture could have developed. These exploration ships could travel to other galaxies and survive in environments that would destroy any vessel built using traditional methods. Admiral Blake commanded the first intergalactic expedition that launched from New Geneva using ships that represented the best collaborative effort of multiple species. Her fleet carried crews from every civilization that had participated in the war, and their mission was to explore regions of space that no one had ever seen. The discoveries they made would belong to all participating species equally. General Murphy established training programs where human military techniques were taught to alien officers, while humans learned about combat methods that had been perfected over thousands of years. These exchange programs created military units that could operate more effectively than any single species force. Former enemies became allies who trusted each other with their lives. The psychological transformation was as important as the technological advances. Species that had spent millennia thinking in terms of conquest and domination learned to approach problems through cooperation and shared innovation. Human influence changed not just how aliens fought wars, but how they thought about what civilization could accomplish when it moved beyond conflict. Miller signed the Galactic Cooperation Accords in a ceremony attended by representatives from 12 different civilizations. The treaty established principles that no previous galactic government had ever attempted. Instead of rule through superior force, the new order was based on voluntary participation and mutual benefit for all member species. The irony was not lost on anyone who understood galactic history. The alien species that had invaded Earth expecting easy conquest now looked to humanity for leadership in facing challenges that were beyond what any previous civilization had encountered. Human approaches to problem solving had proven superior not because of advanced technology, but because of different ways of thinking about what was possible. The exploration fleets that launched from New Geneva discovered that the universe was far stranger and more wonderful than anyone had imagined. Entire regions of space operated according to physical laws that were completely different from anything known science could explain. Some areas contained forms of life that existed as pure energy, while others held technologies that had been abandoned by civilizations millions of years old. Dr. Grant published research papers that established new scientific disciplines based on discoveries made through interspecies cooperation. The combination of human innovation with alien knowledge had created understanding that neither could have achieved working independently. The university systems that developed around New Geneva attracted students from across the known galaxy. Hayes led the Deep Space Exploration Division that pushed the boundaries of known space further every year. Human ships equipped with hybrid technology could travel distances that would have taken previous civilizations centuries to cover. The maps they created showed a universe filled with possibilities that no single species could explore in thousands of lifetimes. The transformation of galactic civilization happened gradually but completely. Trade networks developed that connected species separated by millions of light years. Cultural exchange programs allowed different civilizations to learn from each other in ways that enriched everyone involved. The concept of conquest became obsolete when cooperation produced better results than warfare ever could. Robinson established intelligence networks that were designed to prevent conflicts before they could develop into wars. Her teams monitored tensions between species and intervened with diplomatic solutions based on successful models from human-alien cooperation. The galaxy began to experience the longest period of peace in its recorded history. Miller looked at status reports from exploration fleets operating in 12 different galaxies and realized that humanity had achieved something more important than military victory. Earth had proven that the response to aggression did not have to be domination. Instead, it could be the beginning of cooperative civilization that accomplished things no single species could ever achieve alone. The final entry in Miller's command log summarized what the war had really accomplished. The aliens had tried to invade Earth, thinking humans were just another primitive species they could easily conquer. They had been wrong not because humanity was more advanced, but because humans had potential that the galaxy had never seen before. That potential had transformed not just the outcome of the war, but the entire future of interstellar civilization. The Zephyrian Collective made the decision that would seal their fate when they activated protocols that had not been used for over 1,000 years. Admiral Kethvar sent emergency transmissions to every ally his people had accumulated during their 3 millennia of conquest. The message was simple and desperate in ways that shocked species who had never seen the Zephyrians ask for help before. The Vorak war clans received the call first, and their response came within hours. These massive humanoid warriors had served as Zephyrian enforcers since before humans had developed writing systems. Their ships were built like flying fortresses designed to crush resistance through overwhelming firepower and psychological terror. When the Vorak decided to join the war against Earth, they brought 800,000 vessels armed with weapons that could crack planets. The Nethys Synthesis added their forces to the alliance after careful consideration of what defeat might mean for their cybernetic civilization. These machine-organic hybrids had provided technical support to Zephyrian operations for centuries, and their computing power made coordinated fleet actions possible across interstellar distances. The synthesis committed 600,000 ships equipped with artificial intelligence systems that could predict enemy movements with frightening accuracy. Admiral Miller stood in the command center of the UES Sovereign and watched sensor displays that showed an enemy armada larger than anything in recorded galactic history. Over 2 million ships from 3 different civilizations approached the solar system in formations that stretched across light years of space. The combined alien force carried enough firepower to destroy every planet in a dozen star systems. The human fleet that prepared to meet this armada numbered 400 vessels built using hybrid technology that represented the best of human and alien engineering. Earth's defenders were outnumbered by more than 5,000 to 1 against enemies who had been perfecting warfare for longer than human civilization had existed. By every rational calculation, humanity should have been preparing for extinction, but humans had stopped thinking rationally about warfare the moment they realized that superior numbers meant nothing if the enemy could not use them effectively. Miller's fleet was not designed to match the alien armada ship for ship. Instead, human forces would fight using advantages that no combination of alien species could counter, no matter how many vessels they brought to battle. Captain Blake commanded the Wraith Squadron, which had become legend among both human and alien forces during the months of fighting. Her pilots flew ships that could phase between normal space and hyperspace dimensions during combat operations. This technology allowed human fighters to appear anywhere on a battlefield instantly and attack from directions that enemy sensors could not detect or predict. The battle for the solar system began when the first alien scouts entered the outer detection grid and immediately came under attack from human forces that seemed to materialize from empty space. Blake's squadron struck at the massive Vorak battlecruisers using tactics that turned their size and armor into disadvantages instead of strengths. Vorak ships were designed to absorb incredible amounts of damage while delivering devastating return fire against enemies that fought in predictable patterns. The aliens had never faced opponents who could strike from hyperspace and then vanish before return fire could be aimed at their positions. Human fighters appeared inside Vorak defensive formations and destroyed critical systems before the massive alien vessels could even detect their presence. The Nethys Synthesis tried to counter human tactics by using their advanced computing systems to predict where the phasing ships would appear next. Their artificial intelligence networks analyzed every human movement pattern and created probability maps that should have allowed alien forces to intercept the elusive human fighters. But human pilots were not following computer-generated flight, plans that could be predicted by any artificial intelligence. Major Robinson's intelligence networks had been gathering data on all three alien species for months before the final battle began. Her teams had infiltrated Zephyrian communication systems completely and had partial access to both Vorak and Nethys military networks. This intelligence advantage meant that human commanders knew about alien tactical plans before the enemy ships received their orders. The psychological warfare aspects of the battle were as important as the physical combat. Human forces broadcast continuous transmissions that demonstrated their technical superiority to every alien crew member in the massive armada. These signals showed exactly how human technology had surpassed the best that three advanced civilizations could produce when working together. Engineer Clark had solved the power scaling problems that limited how much stellar energy could be channeled through ship-based systems. His breakthrough allowed human vessels to operate at energy levels that alien ships could not match even when they combined their power cores. Single human warships could outfight entire alien squadrons simply by operating at higher energy outputs than their enemies could achieve. The space around Earth became a nightmare of destruction as the battle reached its peak intensity. Alien ships died by the hundreds as human forces struck from impossible angles, using weapons that channeled more power than entire alien fleets could generate. The combined armada that had approached Earth with confidence began to fragment as casualties mounted beyond anything the alien commanders had ever experienced. Admiral Kethvar watched his alliance dissolve as Vorak and Nethys forces realized that continuing the battle would result in the complete destruction of their civilizations. The species that had served the Zephyrians for centuries began withdrawing from combat as it became clear that humans were not just winning the battle, but were capable of pursuing their enemies to their home systems and finishing what the aliens had started. The turning point came when human forces demonstrated that they could destroy entire alien fleets without losing a single ship. Miller's battle group used coordinated phasing attacks to eliminate a Nethys formation of 50,000 vessels in less than an hour. The aliens watched helplessly as their most advanced artificial intelligence systems proved useless against enemies who fought using principles that no computer could analyze or predict. Colonel Murphy led boarding operations against the largest alien ships while the space battle continued around them. Human Marines had learned to fight in the strange environments of three different alien civilizations, and they moved through enemy vessels like apex predators hunting in familiar territory. Every ship they captured provided more intelligence about alien weaknesses and more technology that human engineers could improve upon. The 8-hour battle ended when the surviving alien forces began a retreat that quickly became a complete rout. Ships that had approached Earth as part of the largest military formation in galactic history fled in random directions as their command structure collapsed under losses that no civilization could absorb. The combined armada that was supposed to crush human resistance had been destroyed by a force that was outnumbered by thousands to one. Dr. Grant studied the wreckage fields that stretched throughout the solar system and realized that humanity had crossed a threshold that could never be reversed. Earth's defenders had not just survived an attack by the galaxy's most powerful military alliance. They had demonstrated technological and tactical superiority that made every other civilization obsolete by comparison. The victory celebration was brief because everyone involved understood what the battle meant for the future. Humanity now possessed the most advanced fleet in known space, and every surviving alien civilization would be watching to see what humans did with power that no single species had ever wielded before. The galaxy had entered a new age, and Earth stood at its center as the undisputed dominant force in interstellar affairs. Miller looked at the tactical displays showing scattered alien survivors fleeing toward their home systems and knew that the war was essentially over. The question now was not whether humanity could defeat its enemies, but whether Earth's leaders would choose conquest or something more constructive as they decided how to use their overwhelming advantages in the wider galaxy. 6 months after the first alien ships appeared in Earth's sky, the war had become something that neither side had expected. Admiral Miller stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution and watched as the first completely human-built ships equipped with hybrid technology rolled out of the orbital shipyards. These new vessels combined Zephyrian energy systems with human engineering principles in ways that created capabilities beyond what either species had achieved alone. The shipyards themselves had been transformed from simple construction facilities into massive industrial complexes that operated around the clock. Human workers collaborated with captured alien automated systems to build warships at a rate that impressed even the engineers who designed the production lines. Every day brought new vessels that were faster and more powerful than anything humanity had possessed before the invasion. Captain Hayes commanded the first attack on a Zephyrian stronghold outside the solar system. The enemy had built a massive space station around Proxima Centauri that served as their forward command base for the invasion of Earth. The station was protected by 300 warships and defensive systems that could destroy anything within a light year of its position. Hayes brought 12 ships to attack a fortress that was designed to withstand assault by entire fleets. His battle group included the newest human vessels equipped with technology that the aliens had never seen before. Human engineers had solved problems with stellar energy manipulation that had limited Zephyrian advancement for centuries. The result was ships that could do things their designers had never imagined possible. The battle for Proxima Station began when Hayes's ships appeared at the edge of the system, using a new form of faster-than-light travel that human scientists had developed by studying captured alien navigation equipment. The Zephyrians detected the small human force immediately and prepared to destroy it with overwhelming firepower from their defensive installations. But the human ships did not behave like any vessels the aliens had fought before. Instead of massing for a direct attack, Hayes's battle group split apart and began moving in patterns that confused every tactical computer in the Zephyrian fleet. The human vessels seemed to phase in and out of normal space while firing weapons that struck targets from impossible angles. The technology that made these tactics possible came from human modifications to alien space-folding systems. Zephyrian ships could bend space to travel faster than light, but they had never thought to use the same principles for combat maneuvers. Human pilots learned to fold space around their ships during battle, which let them appear anywhere on the battlefield instantly. Admiral Kethvar watched his fortress come under attack from enemies that could strike from any direction without warning, and then vanish before his weapons could return fire. The human ships were using his own technology in ways that violated every principle of space warfare that the Zephyrians had developed over 3 millennia of conquest. The aliens sent diplomatic envoys for the first time in their species' history. Commander Grant had become Earth's primary expert on alien psychology, and she sat across from Kethvar himself in a meeting that would have been impossible when the war began. The Zephyrian admiral's crystalline features showed something humans had never seen from his species before. He was afraid. The diplomatic meeting took place on a neutral space station that had been built specifically for the negotiations. Human and alien engineers had worked together to create a facility that could support both species while demonstrating the possibilities that cooperation might offer. The station itself was more advanced than anything either civilization had built on their own. Grant studied the alien commander while he presented his people's offer of conditional surrender. The Zephyrians were willing to withdraw from human space and establish trade relationships that would benefit both species. In return, they asked only that humanity agree not to expand beyond the solar system or interfere with Zephyrian operations in other parts of the galaxy. The human response surprised everyone in the room, including Grant herself. Earth's government rejected the alien surrender offer and presented counterterms that left Kethvar speechless with shock. Humanity demanded that the Zephyrians provide complete technical specifications for all their technology and submit to human oversight of their military operations throughout their empire. Dr. Scott's research teams had discovered something that changed humanity's entire perspective on the war. The hybrid technology was not just matching Zephyrian capabilities. In many areas, human modifications had surpassed the original alien designs by factors that seemed almost impossible. Humans were not just learning to use alien technology. They were teaching the aliens new things about their own science. The moment that changed galactic history occurred when Colonel Murphy led humanity's first deep space exploration mission beyond the boundaries of known Zephyrian territory. His fleet of hybrid vessels encountered an alien patrol group at the edge of their empire, and instead of attacking immediately, Murphy broadcast a message that would spread throughout their civilization within hours. Murphy's transmission was simple and direct in a way that made every alien who heard it understand exactly what had happened. The species they had tried to conquer as primitive natives had become the most advanced military force in their region of the galaxy. Earth's defenders were no longer fighting for survival. They were preparing for expansion. The psychological impact of Murphy's message could not be measured in ships destroyed or territories captured. For the first time in their history, the Zephyrians faced an enemy that was technologically superior to their own forces. The species that had ruled 17 star systems through military dominance now found themselves outmatched by the primitives they had tried to enslave. Kethvar returned to his flagship with news that would transform Zephyrian society forever. The invasion of Earth had not only failed completely, but had created an enemy capable of conquering the Zephyrian Empire itself. Every military advantage his people had possessed for 3,000 years had been neutralized or surpassed by human innovations in less than 1 year of warfare. The alien admiral faced a choice that no Zephyrian commander had ever confronted before. He could continue fighting a war that his people could no longer win, or he could try to negotiate with humans who had already rejected his surrender offer. Either path led to the end of Zephyrian dominance and the beginning of something entirely new in galactic politics. Miller received reports from human forces throughout the solar system as they prepared for the next phase of operations. Earth's hybrid fleets were ready to carry the war beyond humanity's home system and into the heart of alien territory. The species that had come to conquer Earth was about to learn what it meant to face an enemy that improved with every battle. The war that had begun as an alien invasion of a primitive world had become something far more significant. Humanity had proven that superior technology meant nothing without the will to use it effectively and the imagination to push beyond existing limitations. The galaxy would never be the same because humans had shown that even the most advanced civilizations could be surpassed by species willing to think differently about what was possible. The first 3 weeks of fighting changed everything. Both sides thought they knew about warfare. Human ships darted between asteroids like angry wasps, while alien vessels tried to bring their massive weapons to bear on targets that refused to stay still long enough to be hit. Captain Susan Blake led her fighter squadron in attacks that made no sense to alien tactical computers, but somehow kept working. The Zephyrian dreadnought Eternal Glory was the size of a small moon and carried enough firepower to destroy entire planets. Its crystalline hull channeled stellar energy through weapon systems that could punch holes through space itself. When Blake's squadron of 12 fighters approached the massive ship, every alien on the bridge expected to watch the tiny craft get vaporized in seconds. Instead, the human fighters split into 3 groups and began flying in patterns that created interference with the dreadnought's targeting systems. The aliens had designed their weapons to fight other large ships in open space. They had never needed to deal with small, fast targets that worked together like a single organism with many parts. Blake's real plan became clear when her damaged. Fighters suddenly accelerated directly toward the alien hull instead of trying to escape. The Zephyrian commander watched in disbelief as human pilots rammed their dying ships into his vessel's shield generators. The impacts should have been meaningless against armor designed to withstand star-level energy discharges. But the human fighters were not trying to destroy the dreadnought with their small explosions. They were creating holes in the energy barriers that protected the ship's hull. Before the aliens could repair their shields, Blake led boarding pods through the gaps her squadron had died to create. 24 human Marines found themselves inside an alien warship that had never been boarded in 3,000 years of service. Lieutenant Colonel Dan Murphy commanded the first successful alien ship capture in galactic history. His Marines wore powered armor that had been designed for asteroid mining operations, but worked just as well for fighting in the strange crystalline corridors of a Zephyrian cruiser. The aliens had weapons that could melt through steel from across a star system, but they had no idea how to fight enemies who were already inside their ship. The Zephyrian crew tried to repel the human boarders using energy weapons that worked perfectly in space combat. Inside their own ship, these powerful guns created more problems than they solved. Energy beams that missed their targets bounced off crystalline walls and damaged critical ship systems. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that had turned their own ship into a weapon against them. Murphy's Marines moved through the alien vessel like they were clearing buildings in an urban combat zone. They used tactics that had been developed for fighting human enemies in Earth's wars, but these same methods worked even better against aliens who had never experienced close-quarters battle. Room by room, the humans took control of the ship, while its crew struggled to understand what was happening. Dr. Grant worked with salvage teams to study every piece of alien technology that human forces captured. The crystalline computers used quantum processing methods that were centuries ahead of human science, but the basic principles were understandable to anyone who knew physics. More important was the discovery that alien technology was designed to be operated by telepathic minds that could interface directly with their ship's systems. Professor Alan Scott led the engineering team that had to figure out how humans could use alien equipment without the natural telepathic abilities that Zephyrian operators possessed. The solution came when they realized that the alien interfaces responded to electrical signals from human nervous systems. With the right amplification equipment, a human could control Zephyrian technology even better than its original creators. The breakthrough changed everything about how humans fought the war. Instead of just defending Earth with inferior weapons, human forces began using captured alien technology against its former owners. The first hybrid human-alien warship was built by combining a human destroyer with Zephyrian power systems and weapons. The result was a vessel that could match alien firepower while keeping human tactical flexibility. Major Kelly Robinson discovered that the aliens had never developed proper security protocols because they had never needed them. Every species they had conquered before humans had been defeated so quickly that counterintelligence operations were unnecessary. This oversight gave human intelligence teams access to Zephyrian communication networks that revealed the location and strength of every alien force in the solar system. The most important intelligence breakthrough came when Robinson's team intercepted messages between the invasion fleet and the Zephyrian homeworlds. The force attacking Earth was just an advanced scout group designed to crush resistance quickly and efficiently. The main Zephyrian armada contained over 2 million ships and would arrive as soon as the advance force signaled that Earth had been conquered. Engineer Tony Clark worked in the captured alien technology laboratory where human scientists tried to understand how stellar energy manipulation actually functioned. The Zephyrian power systems were based on principles that human science had theoretical knowledge of but had never been able to put into practical use. Clark's job was to figure out how to build human versions of alien power cores. The accident that changed galactic history happened when Clark was testing a modified alien power core that had been connected to human computer systems instead of Zephyrian quantum interfaces. The hybrid system created a feedback loop that overloaded not just the test unit, but every Zephyrian ship within 50,000 kilometers. The electromagnetic pulse that resulted revealed the positions of cloaked alien vessels that human forces had not even known existed. More importantly, the pulse demonstrated that human modifications to alien technology could affect the original Zephyrian systems in ways that their creators had never anticipated. Human engineering approaches combined with alien technology created possibilities that neither species had imagined on their own. The war was no longer about primitive humans fighting advanced aliens. It had become a conflict between two different ways of understanding the universe. Admiral Kethvar studied the reports from his ship commanders with growing alarm. Human forces were not just adapting to alien technology, they were improving it, beyond what the Zephyrians themselves had been able to achieve in 3,000 years of development. The primitive species that should have surrendered within days was teaching his people new things about their own science. The tide of battle shifted as human forces began deploying hybrid technologies in larger numbers. Ships that combined human tactics with alien power systems proved superior to pure Zephyrian designs. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that used their own weapons better than they did while employing strategies that no Zephyrian commander could predict or counter. Jake Miller coordinated the defense of Earth from his command center while watching reports of human victories across the solar system. The species that had come to conquer humanity was learning too late that they had awakened something far more dangerous than another primitive world. They had given humans access to technologies that turned Earth's defenders into the most formidable military force the galaxy had ever seen. The morning sky above Earth looked normal until it suddenly filled with strange shapes that made no sense to human eyes. Commander Jake Miller stood at his post in the orbital defense station and watched through the main viewing screen as thousands of crystalline ships appeared from nowhere. The alien vessels looked like giant pieces of cut glass that bent light around them in ways that hurt to look at directly. Jake had been preparing for this moment his entire military career, but nothing could have made him ready for the sight of so many enemy ships. The alien fleet stretched across space like a deadly constellation, with each ship glowing with its own inner light. Earth's entire space defense force had only 197 ships, and most of them used old chemical rockets and basic weapons that seemed like toys compared to what was coming toward them. The aliens had ruled 17 different star systems for over 3,000 years, and their ships ran on power taken directly from stars themselves. Admiral Kethvar commanded the invasion fleet from his flagship that was larger than most human space stations. He looked at the small blue planet through sensors that could see every detail of its surface and felt nothing but mild interest. This would be conquest number 412 for the Zephyrian Collective, and it would be just as easy as all the others. Dr. Lisa Grant worked in the xenobiology lab deep inside the lunar research facility where she had spent the last 8 years studying theoretical alien contact scenarios. When the first transmission from the alien fleet reached Earth, she was the first person to hear it. The message was simple and direct in a way that made her blood run cold. The aliens gave humanity 72 hours to surrender completely or face total destruction. No negotiation was offered and no terms were discussed. Captain Roy Hayes commanded the UES Defiant, which was the most advanced warship that human technology could build. His ship carried experimental plasma weapons that had never been tested in real combat and armor plating made from materials that cost more than entire cities. As he looked at the massive alien armada through his ship's sensors, he felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. The aliens had made their first mistake by giving humans time to prepare. The Zephyrian military had conquered over 200 different species across their empire, and they knew exactly how primitive worlds behaved when faced with superior technology. First came desperate resistance that lasted a few days, then frantic attempts at negotiation, and finally complete surrender when the natives realized how outmatched they were. The process usually took less than a week from first contact to total control. But humans were different in ways that the aliens could never have predicted. Within 6 hours of receiving the surrender demand, every major human government had given the same response. Earth would fight. There would be no surrender and no negotiation. The aliens had picked a fight with a species that responded to impossible odds by working harder instead of giving up. Jake Miller received reports from defense stations all across the solar system as human forces prepared for battle. The asteroid mining facilities were being converted into weapon factories. The Mars colonies were building new ships using construction methods that had never been tried before. Even civilian spacecraft were being armed with whatever weapons could be mounted on their hulls. Dr. Grant worked with teams of engineers and scientists to study every piece of data they could gather about the alien ships. The crystalline hulls seemed to channel energy in patterns that suggested the aliens used stellar manipulation as their primary technology. If humans could understand how that energy flowed, they might be able to find weaknesses in what looked like invincible defenses. The alien admiral studied Earth's military response through advanced sensors that could detect every human ship and weapon. What he saw confused him in ways that went against 3 millennia of conquest experience. Instead of massing their forces for a desperate last stand, the humans were spreading their ships across the entire solar system. Their tactics made no sense according to any military doctrine the Zephyrians had ever encountered. Captain Hayes led a meeting of human ship commanders where they planned their opening moves. The alien fleet was too large to fight directly, but it was also too confident to expect unconventional attacks. Human ships would strike fast at the edges of the alien formation and then retreat before the main force could respond. Each attack would gather information about alien weapons and defenses while avoiding direct confrontation with superior numbers. The first alien probe ships entered Earth's outer defense zone and immediately came under attack from human fighter squadrons that appeared from behind asteroids and space debris. The small human craft were armed with kinetic weapons that fired solid projectiles at incredible speeds. Against the energy shields that protected Zephyrian vessels, these primitive weapons should have been useless. But the human pilots had studied the way alien shields worked, and they aimed their shots at specific points where the energy fields overlapped. When solid projectiles hit those weak spots, the shields collapsed in cascade failures that left entire sections of alien hulls exposed. The probe ships found themselves taking damage from weapons they had dismissed as obsolete. Admiral Kethvar watched the first skirmishes with growing confusion. The human attacks were causing real damage to ships that should have been invulnerable to primitive weapons. More disturbing was the way human forces retreated before his ships could bring their superior firepower to bear. These tactics suggested a level of strategic thinking that primitive species were not supposed to possess. Dr. Grant made the first breakthrough when she realized that the aliens had never fought an enemy that used combined arms tactics. Every species the Zephyrians had conquered fought in predictable patterns that matched their technology level. Humans were using Stone Age persistence with Space Age tools while thinking like generals who had studied warfare for thousands of years. The 72-hour deadline approached, and both sides prepared for the real battle to begin. The alien fleet moved into attack formation, while human forces took positions that looked random to Zephyrian tactical computers. Jake Miller gave the order that would start humanity's first interstellar war. Every human ship opened fire at the same moment from positions that created a sphere of destruction around the alien vanguard. The aliens had expected easy victory against a primitive world. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that had turned their own confidence into a weapon against them. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were the most dangerous thing in the universe. They were a species that got stronger when the odds got worse.